So today we're going to talk about how to think about overthinking. Now, why is this really important? Well, it's important because too many people are spending too much time overthinking things, and it's sucking up your bandwidth. It's taking over your mind. It's taking over, how much time you're spending every day on things and your focus and your dopamine and everything else. So basically, it's undermining what you can do with your life. If you're overthinking, then you're spending time doing something you don't need that has no value to you instead of going forward and getting what you want in life. So, what is overthinking? We think of it as ruminating, perseveration, grinding on something, just thinking about it. It keeps coming up, it keeps bothering me. And it could be about the past, it could be about the future, it could be about something that has just happened that you're reviewing over and over again. It could be about social anxiety or like, am I wearing the right color since it's St. Patrick's Day? What are they going to think about me at the office if I wear orange? These kinds of things. So this happens so often to people that they don't even know they're overthinking, right? So how do we find out if we're overthinking? Well, if you're thinking about what do I want for lunch and you think, okay, I'll have a sandwich, done. No overthinking, done, right? It's just done. If you think about, well, I want to have a sandwich, but then maybe I should have the soup. But I'm trying to lose weight, but is the soup keto? And I just don't know. And I'm worried about it. And man, I need to lose those 10 kilos or those 10 pounds. And what's going to happen? Did I buy anything for the fridge? And I don't know what to buy. And man, you go down a rabbit hole and you never come out, right? You can spend days and hours thinking about things and think about them over and over again. If you make a simple decision and act, then what can happen is the overthinking's gone and you're back to where you are in the present moment. Because that's where you really want to be anyway, right? Think about it in your life. All the really fun things that happen to you happen in the present moment. They don't happen yesterday. They don't happen tomorrow. As good as those things could be, remembering fun times at a wedding or thinking about a vacation in the future, the fact of the matter is that all of your beautiful life happens in the present moment because that's where we are. So overthinking takes us away from the present moment, right? So how do we get back to the present moment from overthinking? Well, the first thing is to have awareness. You have to be aware that you're overthinking, right? And that's something to train yourself. There's 4 stages to learning about that. The first stage is you don't know that you're overthinking. The second stage is that you're aware that you're overthinking, but you can't stop it. The third is that you start to use some tools to help control your overthinking and shift back into the present moment. And the fourth is that you just naturally do it. They're just embedded in the way that you are now, right? So you can think about sometime in the past when there was a problem, a worry, an upset, a bother, something that you overthought about, like, I don't know, if you went to the prom or something. It's like, do I have a date for the prom? And well, who will go with me? And what should I wear? And all that. Maybe you had those kinds of things. Or if I wear this, what will someone think? And all these different things that we can just perseverate or grind on for hours and hours and hours trying to figure it out. So what do we want to do? We want to figure out how do we snap out of those things, right? So we get that awareness that we're overthinking about something because we're bothered about it. You're going to have a feeling attached to overthinking. Typically, it's bother, anxiety, stress, worry, upset, those kinds of things. And when you find yourself in that state, you can say, aha, I'm overthinking. I'm overthinking this. Just get a sandwich or a piece of chicken. Wait, did I just overthink that? So you want to yeah, exactly, right? You just want to take action. So there's a couple things. What can I do? What can I just bang? Well, the first thing is if you find yourself overthinking, give yourself a pat on the back. Say, I did it. I realized I'm overthinking. You're now in stage 2 where you're realizing that you're doing something you might not want to do. Now you can go to the third stage, which is say, I'm going to do something. Well, we have a very good friend, right, Morris? Eric, he's a coach. Eric Forrester, he's an amazing coach. He's a wonderful mentor, just an incredible human. He said ACT, action changes things. So literally just to break your state and do something when you get that moment of, I'm overthinking. Great, what do? Get up out of your chair, go for a walk, do a couple of push-ups if you're able, move your body, get a glass of water, clap your hands 100 times and count every count. Because what you're doing is you're shifting from some part of your brain that's overthinking to a new part of your brain about something. You can even take a ball and just juggle it like this and focus on how far can I get my arms apart and still juggle the ball without dropping it. That changes where you are in your brain, right? Because you are not your thinking. And when we're overthinking, the overthinking is taking over the present awareness of I'm a being and I'm here right now, right? You are the thinker of thoughts. You are not your thoughts unless you're overthinking, in which case you're just thinking about your thoughts constantly and you're not really being present. So that's the first thing. The second thing you can do is you can rehearse to have sort of like a mantra or a kind of a safe word or safe action to get yourself out of that overthinking. The minute you notice stage 2, you're doing it, do something like, I'm not an overthinker, I'm an action taker. right? Snap your fingers, do something, clap your hands, and say, do this over and over again every time you find yourself overthinking. You can even practice it. What will I do if I find myself overthinking, or when I find myself overthinking? I know what I'll do. I'll do 5 push-ups. I'll go get a glass of water. I'll clap my hands 100 times. I'll do the Mel Robbins high five in the mirror and say, I'm an action taker, not an overthinker. I'm an action taker. Do it like 3 times and do that. All of those things change your state. All of those things get you back into present time awareness. Some really popular ones include, like, okay, find 5 red things in the room, right? It's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. So you can 5 visual things, 4 ideas that you can hear something, 3, and so on and so on. There's a whole thing we can put down below for that. But fundamentally, you can do all these different kinds of tools and actions and behaviors where you just grab that overthinking, throw it away, and move forward with present time. So that's what you can do. Now, what you'll find is that you'll get to that 4th stage where you're like, oh, I was overthinking, and then I just got up and went a glass of water. If you practice these things, if you make them routine, if you ingrain them in your neurology and your body by doing them over and over again, especially if you're doing something physical, then what's going to happen is it'll happen automatically for you. For example, you probably know how to brush your teeth without thinking. You probably know how to tie your shoes without overthinking. You may not know how to tie a bow tie without overthinking it and saying, is that right? Did I get it right? That kind of thing. You may not be able to code a website or do something like that in WordPress without overthinking it if you've never done it before. This is the key. When you find yourself overthinking, you're going to stop, pat yourself on the back for that awareness, take some kind of an action, shift your brain, do something different, trigger yourself with your thoughts, your ideas, or a snap of your finger, something to break your state, and then you're going to go directly towards the next right action. You want to go towards the next right action because it's sitting there in front of you. Get the sandwich, right? Go for the walk. Go back to the email you have to respond to. Just pick the blue shirt or the red shirt. It doesn't matter. Pick one. Because here's something that we'll find out. What you'll find out when you do these things, when you find out when you now take control of your mind again, and you've gone from overthinking to taking action, is that nobody really cares about most of the stuff. I mean, I have an exercise I used to do. I had a picture of these people from like 1910. All these adults sitting around. I used to have a black and white picture of it up on my screen often. And what I realized was they're all dead. All their overthinking, all of their ruminating, all of their problems, all these things, they're all dead. They're gone. Nobody cares about their problems. Nobody cares about their overthinkings. They don't care about their overthinkings. The fact of the matter is, your life exists in present time in its highest, best form. And to the extent that you can be present, to the extent that you can to do and be and have what you want, to take action to create the life you want, to make happen what you want, to get rid of the things you don't want, and to get more of what you do want, is to learn the 4 steps of overthinking into action, and then practice it, practice it, practice it. Now, one more thing you can do, and this is really cool, is before I go to bed at night, tend to like to write down everything that's in my head, all the issues or problems or challenges, and a couple of wins as well. I just empty my head onto paper, if I have paper, or onto my computer, and I just empty it, because then my brain is clear. I'm going to sleep better, and I'm not going to ruminate, overthink, or have all these worries in my dreams, right? Because we can consciously do that all day. We can learn those 4 steps and take action all day. And that's good, and you will, and you're going to get better and better at it to the point where it just becomes natural. However, in our sleep, what we have going into sleep, like if we want to set an intention before we go to sleep, you want to focus on an idea before you go to sleep, you want to think about how can I solve this situation with Mary or Bob, or what am I going to do for my spring planting? I'm going to put flowers out in the pots on the steps. Whatever you're going to do, that's a wonderful thing to think about when you sleep. You don't necessarily want to be overthinking old things or problems or difficulties or future problems when you're sleeping. So clear your brain, clear your head, clear your psyche, write down the things from the day, any challenges, any thoughts, get that out of your head, and then write at least 3 wins and maybe 3 things you're grateful for before you go to bed. And you'll find that you'll dramatically reduce your overthinking during the day. You'll dramatically reduce your overthinking when you sleep. You're going to feel better. You're going to have more energy, and you're going to be more able to be, do, and have exactly what you want for your life.
That is such a good exercise, Jonathan. What is your trigger to bring you back to the present moment?
I go get more tea. I get up, I go to the fridge, I get something that's non-calorie to drink, and maybe a little quick snack, and I'll maybe go downstairs and do a little rowing or something. Just go walk outside if it's not raining, because I live in Portland, Oregon, so it rains a lot. Just get outside, stand outside, breathe some fresh air. These are the things I do.
Isn't there sometimes value in really deeply thinking about something for a long time?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So there's a difference between deep thinking and linear thinking about a problem set, right? And overthinking something. So let me give you an example. There was a guy named Jack Horner, and he had a series of steps that he would run through when he wanted to really clarify his thinking around something, okay? Or even his feelings sometimes. So he'd say, okay, what is it that's upsetting me? What is it that I'm overthinking about, for example? What is the problem I'm trying to solve? And then he'd say, well, when is it? Right? And we use that in neurolinguistic programming too. It's called time binding. Put a front end on it and a back end. When did it start? Then you can go review the whole thing. When did it start, or when might it start, and what might happen, and go through that. Write it all down from beginning to end, right? And then you look at it and you say, okay, well, what choices do I have? What options do I have? What can I do? And then you list those down, right? And there's a wonderful, I forget what it's called. It's a process. I'm trying to remember who wrote the process down and popularized it. But there's a wonderful process that says called what if. All right. Well, what if I wear the orange shirt when you're supposed to be wearing green that day? What's going to happen? Well, people might be upset with me. They might think that I'm against the Irish because orange is the anti-Irish color for the, Northern Ireland, right? So, okay, what might happen? Well, but people think I'm weird that I forgot. I'm not part of the whole thing. I'm not being, positive about the whole thing. All right. Well, then what might happen? Well, they might, I don't know, they might not want to sit with me at lunch in the cafeteria if you're in high school or something, right? Well, then what might happen? Well, then I might have to sit alone today. Well, that might happen. So you just keep going, what if, all the way down. And what people come to the end of that what if train is you just keep asking, what if, and then what happens, and then what happens. If you do that, you get to the point where it's like, well, nothing, actually. Almost every time someone runs that exercise, there's nothing at the end, right? It's like, well, then, even if you get to the point where it's like, well, then I might be lonely and starve and die. It's like, okay, and then what happens? I'm like, what? All you're doing then is they've gone back into overthinking, and you're pulling them back out by saying, and then what happens? And then what happens? You just keep going.
So the what if exercise is almost like overthinking with a purpose, and also overthinking where
Yeah,
that this leads to a limit, whereas the uncontrolled overthinking has no limit.
that's right. And then the other thing is that at the end of that, you can also say, well, then what are 5 actions I can take? Right? So it's like, what if? Let's just say someone's saying, well, I'm afraid of the bird flu. And they're thinking about the bird flu might happen. And the bird flu might come to humans, and it might be like COVID again. And then and they just go down this crazy rabbit hole of fear and overthink and grind and keep overthinking. And so what you say is, okay, well, what are 5 things I can do today? I can raise my awareness, right? You start just listing all the positive things. Could be 100 positive things you can do, right? I'm going to have an extra couple of cans of tuna in case the store, I'm just making this up, right? Or I can buy some masks ahead of time, or I can put a Google notification in for pandemic, and see what happens, right? And so you come down and say, what are the smart things I can do out of that list of maybe 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 things? What are the 5 things I can do that help me move forward and make me feel more secure or solve the problem? And then finally, you want to always make sure, what's the problem I'm trying to solve? Because the bird flu isn't a problem you're solving right now. And it's not a problem you can actually solve, but you can respond to it. What are the smart ways you can respond to it? So you start asking the right kind of questions. That's what we learn in coaching, right? You start asking the right kind of questions for someone, and they'll solve it themselves.
Sometimes it feels like focusing on the present moment is ignoring a dangerous future or not capitalizing on potential opportunities. So I need to think about the future. If I'm just living in the present moment, one day I will be overwhelmed by a bad future.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's of course true. So you're probably not worried when we talk about the different kinds of overthinking about the past. Well, you're not missing something if you're overthinking about the past, right? You're missing the present moment's what you're missing. So, and if you're thinking about social anxiety, those are things to consider about, because you may be doing things that cause people to be uncomfortable, cause people to be upset, or cause people to not want to be around you, right? So there's things you could be doing, but let's get real about it. Most people, Morris, think about it. Do you remember what you had for breakfast 3 weeks ago on Tuesday, or for lunch? Probably not. Do you remember how people felt at a party you went to last year? Probably not. Do you care about what they thought about the clothes that you wore at, let's say, a New Year's event 2 years ago? Not really. So what's it all about? Right? It's about being accepted. It's about feeling good about ourselves. It's about our identity and feeling confident in who we are and what we're doing. Now, you have to read the room. If you start yelling, if you go to a multicultural event and you start yelling racial epithets, you're making a mistake, and you should really think clearly about that and not do that. That's a bad thing to do, right? However, if you like use the wrong fork at a dinner with your in-laws, or if you forget to bring the right kind of whatever, it doesn't matter. Most things, if you look back in your life, things that we worried about either weren't true, never came true, or didn't matter. However, there are things to think about that make sense, right? Like you say, am I missing an opportunity? Well, should I be saving for my future? Sure, yeah. Should I be working out at the gym? Of course. But you don't want to be saying, I'm not going to run out the gym because I'm worried about a heart attack when I'm 60, right? I don't worry about a heart attack when I'm 60. You know why? I'm 62. It's like, it never happened. I might have been worried about it in my 50s, but it never happened. Why? Because I took proactive. I ate healthy. I worked out. So anytime that you have something that you're overthinking, you have to ask yourself, is it real? So like the Byron Katie questions, right? I think she had, was it, is it real? Can you absolutely know it's real? What do you do? What do you do if it happens? These kinds of things. I forget the Byron Katie 4 questions, but I think those are 2 or 3 of them. But the point being, you look to begin to get yourself into actuality. Is this real? If it is real, like if you're in Ukraine, you have to be really worried about the Russians. That's real, right? If you're in a place where, if you're in the Congo and let's say some sort of crazy disease is running rampant and there's no medical help, that's something to be concerned about. But for the most part, most of the things that we think about aren't really problems that aren't really worth thinking about, not long term. Most of the problems, they're just not real. And the things that are real, we should learn to address. Your mental wellness, your physical wellness, the quality of your relationships, the goodness of your relationships, making a difference in the world, taking care of yourself, making smart investments or saving money, doing good, being kind. Those are things that make a difference.
It really sounds like the trigger, that's the second step in the mental model, is really the key to all of this, because by recognizing the trigger that I am overthinking and stepping back, I can now make the decision on, is this worth.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, if you're worried about what the neighbors will think about what kind of tulips you plant, you're really thinking about the wrong kind of thing. That's, you should really notice that you're overthinking planting of tulips, right? It's like, pick a color, doesn't matter, just have fun, enjoy. What's your favorite color? That one. Do that one. Yeah, and you're done.
This is also a part of your program where you help people stop smoking.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what you're thinking about is what you become, right? If you're thinking and you're making your identity, I'm a smoker, I'm a smoker, I'm a smoker, I can't quit, I can't quit, I can't quit. Then what happens is you're reinforcing that as a reality, right? It's not true. It's a reality. You're reinforcing it in your brain. You're reinforcing the neurology, and you're getting dopamine from that process. You're getting a spike of fear and anxiety and dopamine and all these other neurochemicals. So instead, we have to separate ourselves and say, I am someone who was doing this. I used to smoke, or sometimes I smoke. But when I had a guy come to me and says, I have to smoke. I can't stop. Every 30 minutes I have to smoke. I'm like, how do you sleep? He hadn't thought about that, right? I said, well, how do you fly in a plane? How do you go to a business meeting that's an hour long? Well, but then they tell you can't. Okay. So maybe you're overthinking this. Maybe the truth is you've conflated your identity with a belief about what you do and who you are. And it's just not true. You're an infinite immortal being in a sense, right? However your spirituality rolls out with that. You have one life to live, or if you're Hindu, maybe 2 or more. But the basic thing is that you're here now, and there's a set limit of things that you can do, but it's vastly larger than you think. It's much more expansive than you think. You can be, do, and have so much more. So we let go of the things in the past. We stop the overthinking, which is something we definitely want to do. We learn the 4 steps. We're consciously awareness about how to do that. We learn the different ways to make that step number 3 transition to number 4, right? By what do we do, the different actions we can do. And then we congratulate ourselves every time we do the right thing, because we're reinforcing positively the right thing to do. Because overthinking is natural, but getting stuck in it is not. It's a choice. Once you know, and now you know.
Where can people go to learn more mental tools from you and live better lives?
Oh, absolutely. We'll put it in the show notes, the Life Success Tools podcast. There's plenty of stuff in there. I think I've got a list of something like 75 different podcasts to do here. So there's going to be a lot more coming. So Morris and I are going to have a lot more fun. We hope to see you back again.